They were almost back to the labyrinth, but the Telkines were catching up. Then a building-sized boulder rose from the ground, blocking their path. It was Nico, using his father's powers. The boulder tilted and toppled right on top of the fortress. The labyrinth entrance closed in front of them before they could see what happened next, but with the intimidating howling sound of the Titan Lord on the other side, they didn't want to stick around. They didn't stop running until they could no longer hear the roar of Kronos. Finally, they were so exhausted, they stopped in a tunnel of wet white stalactites, like part of a natural cave. Percy couldn't hear anything behind them, but that didn't make him feel any safer. He could still remember those unnatural golden eyes staring at a blank space, and the feeling that his limbs were slowly turning to stone. Rachel stopped and gasped for breath. "I can't go any further." "You did good back there," he told Rachel. She blushed. "Well, I didn't want you to die. I mean, you owe me too many favors. How can I collect if you die, "Well, that sucked," Nico said. Then he explained to Percy how the girls convinced him that Percy needed their help. Then Percy told Nico that even though he saved their lives, he still gave himself away with the boulder technique. "If Kronos didn't know who you were before," Percy told him, "well, he does now." "Big deal," he muttered. Percy just let it drop and figured Nico was just trying to hide how scared he was. Who could blame him? They didn't even notice at first, but Annabeth had been tearing up the entire time they were running. Now she was curled up on the ground. "What was wrong with Luke?" she sobbed. "What did they do to him?" Percy explained to her what he had witnessed. No, that can't be," she sobbed. "He couldn't." "He gave himself up so Kronos could rise," Percy said. "I'm sorry, Annabeth, but Luke is gone." "No," she insisted. "You saw when Rachel hit him." He looked at Rachel. "You hit the Titan Lord in the eye with a blue hairbrush?" Rachel looked embarrassed. "It was the only thing I had." "But you saw," Annabeth insisted. "When it hit him, just for a second, he was dazed. He came back to his senses." "Okay, so maybe Kronos wasn't completely settled in the body or whatever," Percy said, "but that doesn't mean Luke was in control." "Do you want him to be evil? Is that it?" Annabeth yelled. "You didn't know him before, Percy. I did." "What is with you?" he snapped. "Why are you defending him all of a sudden, and after everything he's done to us? He abandoned you, for crying out loud." "Hey, knock it off, both of you," Rachel said. "Doesn't anyone ever realize arguing never helps, ever?" "Shut up, mortal girl," Annabeth yelled. "If it wasn't for you—" Whatever she was going to say, her voice broke, and she buried her face in her hands again and sobbed miserably. Percy wanted to comfort her, but he didn't know how. Plus, his mind was still stuck on the fact that Kronos was out there somewhere, hunting them down. "We better keep moving," Nico said. "He'll send more monsters after us." So Percy convinced Annabeth to get up, despite she was still tearing up. Just when he was about to ask Rachel to find a new path to New York, he froze. He wasn't sure how he didn't notice it sooner, but he recognized it immediately. It was Grover's hat. After all they had gone through on this quest, Percy couldn't stand the thought that something might have happened to Grover. Then Percy just noticed some footprints on the ground, but not just any footprints. Hoof prints, along with some extra large sneaker prints. They were here. It had to be recent. Percy followed their trails without any hesitation.